What if I told you that one single ETF has quietly created more millionaires than almost anything else in the modern investing world? Not a flashy stock, not crypto, not some complex trading strategy, just one simple ETF that has built life-changing wealth for everyday people, teachers, engineers, small business owners, students, even people who barely knew what ETF meant when they first bought it.
Hi there. Before we dive in, please take a moment to read the full disclaimer on the screen.
Today, we're breaking down the one ETF that turned regular people into millionaires, slowly, steadily, and almost silently. Most people completely underestimate it. Some ignore it. Others don't even know it exists. But those who stuck with it? Their lives look very different today. Before we dive in, let me ask you something. If you woke up with an extra $1 million tomorrow, what's the very first thing you would do with it? Think about it for a second. And drop your answer in the comments. I'm really curious to see what goals people dream about. All right, let's get into it. For decades, financial experts, wealthy investors, and even Warren Buffett have repeated the same message. Most people should invest in a low-cost, diversified index fund. And out of all the index funds and ETFs in the world, one of them rose to the top as the king of wealth creation. The ETF is the Vanguard S&P 500 ETF, also known as VOO. Now, before you think, oh, I've heard of that, stay with me, because you're about to hear the story behind why this ETF became a millionaire maker, the numbers that prove it, and the surprising reason it works even for people who know nothing about investing. And trust me, the numbers are going to shock you. VOO follows the S&P 500, which represents the 500 biggest and strongest companies in the United States. Companies you use every single day without thinking. Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Coca-Cola, Visa, and hundreds more. When you buy one share of VOO, you instantly own tiny pieces of all of these companies at once. Instead of betting on one company to win, you bet on the entire U.S. economy. And history shows the U.S. economy has grown, recovered, adapted, reinvented itself, and kept moving forward for more than a century. That's why VOO became a millionaire machine. Let's break down what actually happened. If someone invested just $200 a month into an S&P 500 fund since the early 1980s, they'd be a millionaire today. Not because they were rich, not because they were lucky, but because compounding did the heavy lifting. If someone invested $500 a month for 30 years, they'd have over $1.3 million. If someone invested $1,000 a month for the same period, more than $2.6 million. And this wasn't from picking the next Tesla or hoping Bitcoin exploded or trying to time the perfect dip. It came from consistency, from staying invested, from trusting long-term growth. People who bought and held VOO, or its mutual fund equivalents like VFIAX, or the original Vanguard 500 index fund, simply let time make them wealthy. Let me ask you something real quick. Do you think most people fail at investing because they don't know enough? Or because they don't stay consistent long enough? I'd love to hear your opinion in the comments. Now here's where it gets even more interesting. VOO has one of the lowest fees in the entire industry. It costs almost nothing to own it. This matters because high fees slowly drain your returns. Over 30 or 40 years, even a 1% fee can cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars. VOO avoids that. And that's one of the key reasons it's made so many people rich. Over time, VOO has averaged returns close to 10% annually. Of course, the market goes up and down, sometimes violently. But long-term, it has always trended upward. People who held through crashes, 2000, 2008, 2020, and everything else, were rewarded. Meanwhile, people who panicked lost out. And here's something most people don't realize. You don't need to buy $10,000 worth of VOO. You don't need to be wealthy. You don't need a big income. You just need time and consistency. Every dollar you invest is like planting a seed. 1 becomes 2. 2 becomes 4. 4 becomes 8. And over years and decades, that slow growth turns into something massive. It's not flashy, it's not exciting, it's not trending on social media, but it's real, and it works. Let me ask you a question. What do you think stops most people from investing, even when they know it can change their life? Fear? Lack of knowledge? Procrastination? Something else? Drop your thoughts below. Now, a lot of people ask, why VOO instead of picking individual stocks? Here's the truth. Most individual stocks underperform the market. Only a tiny number of companies create almost all of the long-term gains. If you miss those winners, you fall behind. But VOO automatically includes the winners. If a company fails, it gets removed. If a stronger company rises, it gets added. You don't have to guess. You don't have to predict. You don't have to time anything. The ETF updates itself automatically. That's why long-term investors love it. VOO represents innovation, growth, stability, and long-term progress. It's not a gamble. It's not a trend. It's one of the closest things to a reliable wealth-building machine that average people have access to. And the best part? You don't need to understand the stock market deeply to use it. You don't need to be a math genius. You don't need insider knowledge. You just need to commit to a long-term mindset. Think about it. What would your life look like 20 or 30 years from now if you simply started investing consistently today? Let that question sit with you. And if you're enjoying this video so far, make sure you like, subscribe, and share it with someone you care about, especially someone who wants a better financial future. It helps the channel out a lot and lets me keep making content that helps you grow. Now let's talk about the real magic, compound interest. Compounding is what happens when your money makes more money, and then that money makes even more. It's exponential. It's quiet. And at first it feels like nothing is happening. But give it time and suddenly your investment curve goes almost vertical. That's the moment when millionaires are made. Most people quit before the magic happens. The people who become wealthy stay long enough to see compounding fully kick in. VOO is one of the best vehicles for this because it grows slowly and steadily with the economy. You don't have to chase wild returns. The growth comes naturally. Here's something to think about. If you could go back in time 10 years, what financial advice would you give your younger self? Leave your answer in the comments. Now, to be clear, no investment is guaranteed. The market goes through bad periods. There will always be crashes, recessions, inflation, interest rate changes, wars, political chaos, something to fear. But long-term investors understand that these moments are temporary. If you zoom out, the market has always recovered. Every dip in the last century eventually became a new all-time high. The U.S. economy has been through world wars, pandemics, oil crises, recessions, bubbles, technology shifts, and everything in between. Yet the S&P 500 continued growing. That's why VOO works. It is tied to the story of American growth, and that story isn't finished yet. People who invest in VOO today are betting that the next 30 years will bring new innovations, new technologies, new companies, and new wealth, just like the last 30 years did. And if history keeps repeating itself, many more millionaires will be created. Now, I want to hear from you. Do you think the next 20 years of the stock market will be better, worse, or about the same as the last 20? Tell me in the comments. I'm really interested in your predictions. To wrap this up, let me say this. Wealth doesn't come from luck. It doesn't come from gambling. It doesn't come from chasing hype. It comes from consistent action, patience, and a long-term mindset. VOO became a millionaire-making ETF because it rewarded all three. So no matter where you are in life, starting with $10 or $10,000, remember, the most powerful thing you can do is simply start. And if you found this video helpful, make sure you like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs this information. Your support helps the channel grow and allows me to keep bringing you content that can genuinely improve your financial future. Thanks for watching. Now go answer those questions in the comments. I'll be reading them.